Fair warning, in today's video, I'm gonna make a mess. Welcome to my channel. I'm Cece with One Green Pea, and today I'm taking on a task that I have procrastinated for probably 6 months. I am repotting this giant Monstera deliciosa. Are you ready for this? Let's jump right into it. Had my Monstera deliciosa for probably 3 years now. In the beginning, I struggled a little bit with figuring out the watering. I had some root rot, and I wasn't giving it enough light to grow properly. When I finally dialed all of that in, this plant began to take off. Now it is absolutely gorgeous and full. It's pushing out new leaves all the time, and it has some amazing aerial roots. Here are the signs that told me I really needed to repot this plant. Number one, like I said, all of this top growth. It has had prolific growth up here, which indicates to me that the roots are probably really thick down in the pot as well. Sign number two is there are roots coming out the bottom. Another major sign that told me this plant needed repotted was that every time I water, the water runs straight through and gets into this plastic tray down underneath the plant. Another sign that it needs to be repotted is that the soil is shrinking down in the pot, so it's becoming very compact. I have lost a lot of the soil volume, and I can see roots exposed on top. That is not ideal for a plant. The final way that I know this plant is ready for a repot is the fact that I haven't repotted it since pretty much the beginning when I got it and I moved it out of the pot that it came in. Today is the day we're gonna repot this plant. Like I said in the beginning, it's gonna get a little messy, and that's partly why I have procrastinated it. Typically, I like to do my repotting outside because of the mess, but this plant is really heavy, and so I didn't want to carry it downstairs and outside, so we're just gonna do it right in here. I'm gonna lay out a sheet to protect the floor, and then we're just gonna go for it. The first thing I need to do is get this plant out of the pot, and it's gonna be a little tricky. I have it on this bamboo support. So first thing, I'm gonna take off all of the ties, and you can see why I have it on the support. And it's not just for how it looks, but it's also for stability. These branches grow so much heavy growth out at the ends that they'll snap off if they're not given proper support. So I'm going to take it off and move rather quickly so that it's not without support for too long. So you can see that it's flopped over. Now I'm going to move rather quickly. I'm going to lay the pot on its side and then start working at getting this big plant out of the pot. This is where it's going to get messy. I have this long fork that I like to use to help with this process. I'm just going to use it to work it all the way around the outside edges of the pot. It's really in here. One thing that tends to happen is that the roots will adhere to the inside of the pot. Now, this pot is glazed on the outside, but it's not on the inside, which gives a great surface for the roots, which it makes it a little tricky getting it out, but we're gonna keep working at it. All right, we got it. I'm going to bring you in close so you can see what I see. As you can see, there's a really nice, healthy amount of roots. They're pretty thick. They're not terribly matted, so I'm going to really work hard not to disturb them too much. What I'm going to be able to do is just give this guy some fresh soil and put him right back in the same pot. I don't want to encourage more growth. I don't want a vastly bigger plant. The roots are not quite as matted and overgrown as I feared they might be, which is great. So I'm going to start off by putting a layer of fresh soil in here. It's nice and light and airy. Then I'm going to place the root ball back in. And this can be a little dangerous because, again, I don't want to break any stems. So I'm going to carefully set this back in here. And I also want it in the pot at approximately the same depth it was already in there. And now I'm going to fill up with fresh soil. I have filled the pot with soil, and now I'm just going to press down, gently compressing the soil and then adding a little more on top. Before I go any further, I want to talk about aerial roots. Aerial roots on a Monstera or similar plant are these long, thick roots that you see coming out of the stems of the plant. So rather than coming out the bottom, they're coming out the stems. Those are used in nature to help the plant cling to a support, and they also draw in humidity and moisture from the air. They don't serve a tremendous amount of purpose for our indoor plants, so you can remove them if you like. When I'm repotting, I like to actually poke them in the soil because they give just a little bit more stability to the plant. And that's what I've done as I have been adding soil to this plant. I'm now going to put my bamboo support back in. This is where it's really nice to have a helper. So I'm going to let this support on my body. Put the stake back in. I like this bamboo stake because it has two different surfaces for the plant to adhere to, rather than just one stick that I'd have to pull everything into the center. I'm going to press it so it goes all the way to the bottom of the pot for stability. And then I'm going to tie the branches. I'm going to tie these branches back up onto the bamboo. Being as careful as I can and also supporting the plant down low first. I may have to add more ties than I had originally. We'll see. The Monstera is a climber, so it really doesn't want to flop around. It wants to climb up a supportive surface. Move that up a little bit. There's no real science to this. It's more trial and error. And as the plant puts on more growth, of course, you can always go in and add more ties or adjust where they are. Last one I want to tie up is this one. Now this branch is a little wonky. I'm going to move it. When I got up to look at it, I decided it needed a couple more ties. That's the trial and error part, so I'm gonna add those. Before giving it a drink, I put it back up onto this rolling platform because water is just gonna make it heavier. And I wanted to show you, so I love this plant food by Happy Houseplant, and I'm definitely adding some to the water before I water it because I wanna give this plant every opportunity to recover from any trauma that I inflicted upon it, both in the roots and up here in the stems. And I wanted to continue to put out new growth through the fall. So I just added the tiniest amount, just like so little. I will link this down below so that you can see exactly what I use. Now I'm just gonna fully saturate the soil. Because I mix my own soil, it doesn't come with fertilizer in, like some of the bagged mixes that you use. So if you're using a bagged mix, you may be able to skip this step of adding fertilizer in when you repot. So there you have it, my freshly repotted Monstera deliciosa. It's tilting a little bit, so I may have to adjust this bamboo as it grows, but again, that's not a problem. It's really easy to do. My ties are just in little bows, so they're really easy to remove and adjust. Thank you for watching my video today, and quite honestly for helping motivate me to take on this task. Knowing I was going to film it actually forced me to do it. So I appreciate you. And if you enjoyed it, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. That just helps the algorithm to know that this type of content is valuable. As always, my plant friends, let's keep growing together a greener world.